All right, today we're going to dive into a pretty complex and frankly sensitive topic, spiritual abuse. You know, when a place that's supposed to be about faith and safety becomes a source of harm, figuring out the path to healing, well, it can feel almost impossible. In this explainer, we're going to break down one organization's really comprehensive model for tackling this very issue, and it's all built on 4 distinct pillars.
So here's the core of the problem, right? It's this really painful paradox. What happens when faith, which is a source of comfort for so many people, actually becomes a tool for harm? This is really the root of what we call spiritual abuse and religious trauma. And honestly, just understanding this problem is the very first step toward finding a real solution.
Okay, so let's get really clear on what we're talking about here. Spiritual abuse is not just a simple disagreement about theology. No, it is fundamentally about the misuse of power. It's when someone in a position of spiritual authority, a pastor, a priest, a leader, exploits that trust to control, to manipulate, or to harm someone, causing very, very real psychological and emotional damage. This is the core issue we have to address.
And that leads us to the big question, doesn't it? I mean, it's not enough to just point at the problem. We need a structured, really thoughtful approach that can both help people who've already been hurt and, just as importantly, prevent this from happening in the future. And this is exactly where that 4-pillar framework comes into play.
First up, Pillar 1. And this is all about building knowledge. Think about it. You can't really solve a problem if you don't fully understand it. So the entire foundation of this approach is built on rigorous academic research into the actual realities of spiritual abuse.
Now, what's so smart about this is the systematic pipeline they've created for that knowledge. It's not just a bunch of random studies. First, new research gets generated by a dedicated center. Then, those findings are shared and debated at a global symposium, getting more eyes on it. And finally, that work gets published in a peer-reviewed journal, which is absolutely crucial for cementing that knowledge and making it a credible foundation for everything else that follows.
Okay, that brings us to the second pillar. Once you have that solid foundation of research, what's the next logical step? Well, it's education. This is all about taking those insights and using them to train the next generation of ministry leaders to be trauma-informed. And that just means they get the widespread impact of trauma and they know how to create environments that actually support recovery and avoid making things worse.
And we're not just talking about some vague idea here, right? There are actual concrete plans for postgraduate programs. I mean, look at these offerings. A certificate in trauma-informed ministry, that gives leaders real-world skills to see and respond to trauma. A diploma in faith reintegration helps guide people who've been hurt back to a healthy spirituality. These aren't just pieces of paper. They are tangible academic pathways designed to proactively build healthier, safer faith communities from the top down.
Pillar 3. Now this really gets to the heart of it all. Direct care for those who have been harmed. Because while research and prevention are so important, there is an immediate need to provide real pathways to healing for individuals and for entire communities already dealing with the aftermath of spiritual abuse.
And this table here, it just lays out the whole multi-layered approach so well. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all solution. You can see they have global programs for individual survivors and also for whole communities that are trying to find a healthy path forward. But what I find really insightful is the specific focus on local models in places like Uganda and Rwanda. That shows a deep understanding that healing isn't just some formula. It has to be rooted in the community. It has to be culturally specific to really truly work.
And that brings us to the 4th and final pillar. This one focuses on a group that needs, well, a special kind of attention, our kids. This initiative recognizes that protecting the youngest and most vulnerable members of any community isn't just a nice idea, it's a non-negotiable responsibility.
You know, this statement right here, it's basically the moral compass for this entire pillar. It's a simple, non-negotiable principle. Within any community, our primary duty of care has to be for those who are least able to protect themselves. And that right there, that shifts the whole focus from just reacting to harm to proactively protecting against.
So the question is, how do you actually do this? How do you put that protection into practice? Well, as you can see, it's a really comprehensive strategy. It all starts with research to understand the real-world impacts. Then it moves into direct training for institutions, churches, schools, you name it. It also means creating clear, practical safety guidelines for leaders. And finally, it requires advocating for real policy changes at the institutional level. It's about building a complete multi-point safety net.
Okay, so we've walked through all 4 pillars. Now let's kind of zoom out and see how this all connects. Because these aren't just 4 separate programs floating around in isolation. No, they're designed to be a single, interconnected system.
a real blueprint for a healthier faith. Yeah, and look at this visual. It's a perfect way to see how this all fits together. It's not just four separate ideas, it's like a single engine for change. The research informs the education. That education empowers leaders, which strengthens the healing services. And that entire system is safeguarded by the protection pillar. See, each part literally makes the others stronger.
And all of this really leaves us with one big important question to think about. What is the future of trauma-informed faith? This four-pillar model offers a really powerful blueprint, doesn't it? It moves us beyond just reacting to harm and pushes us toward proactively preventing it in the first place. It really challenges us to imagine what it would look like to build faith communities that are not only spiritually enriching, but also fundamentally safe and psychologically healthy for every single person who walks through the doors.